Let me call a meeting to. Good morning, everybody. Let me call a meeting to order and welcome everybody to the State Ethics Commission. Today is, I believe, the 16th. Is that right? Or 17th?
17th.
17th. That was a test to see you guys are still around. 17th of August, and the time is now, according to my watch, 9:01. What I want to do before we have roll call is, if you have to speak, raise your hand or say Mr. Fong, and do me a favor, close your cell phones, because if they go off, it'll be very annoying. At this time, I'm going to ask Robert to go for a roll call vote. Roll call for a quorum for the commissioners and then also the staff that are with us. And if when your name is called, please indicate if you got anybody unauthorized or if you're alone.
Sorry, starting with Commissioner Hong.
I'm alone and present.
Thank you. Commissioner Garalti.
I'm here and all alone.
Okay. And recognizing that we have staff present, Key Campbell, Nancy Neufer, Benita Chong. Susan, is that you? Sorry, I think you're. Susan Yoza is here, but I think
I'm here in my office.
Oh, sorry, we have you covered by a screen. 1 second. And we also have Patrick Louis also here. Could any of you indicate, or please indicate together whether or not you are, if you have someone with you, or otherwise indicate if you're alone.
I'm alone.
I'm alone.
You know, for the record, that everybody who's present doesn't have anybody unauthorized with them. All right, let's go proceed with the agenda. The first thing on the agenda would be the approval of the minutes for July 20th, 2022. Commissioners, any corrections? I presume we do not have, do we have somebody from the public? I see KITV Island News.
Yes, Chair. Okay, TV's just joined.
Oh, okay, very good. Would you like to introduce yourself from KITV? I guess not. All right. I guess I have to read this script. All right. Since we do have somebody from outside of the commission, I have to read this. For any members of the public who may be joining us remotely, if the commission's video conference connection is lost during the meeting, we will recess the meeting and reconvene after our connection is restored. Please check the commission's website. That's www.ethics.hawaii.gov. Again, that's www.ethics.hawaii.gov for information about reconnecting to the meeting. If the meeting is continued to a later date or terminated, information about this will be posted on our website. Are there any questions from our members from the public? We still have KITV Island News. I see that, see them on the monitor. Okay. Next, we have approval of the minutes for July 20th, 2022. We do need a quorum, even though we have Commissioner Garalti, he was not present. So unless Commissioner Tobias shows up, we would probably postpone the approval of minutes to the next meeting. Are there any objections to that?
None.
Okay, any objections? None? All right, let's move on then. Excuse me. Update on commission to improve standards of conduct. I've asked our executive director to keep us informed in regards to this special commission that was created by the state to improve the ethics of our government. So if there's anything that we should know to be updated and re-informed, I ask them to tell us. Robert?
Thank you, Chair. Do you want me to do the executive director's report first or just?
Let's do that first.
I'm going to go ahead and jump into the executive director's report, and then I can move just right into the commission on improving standards of conduct. Briefly, with regards to the executive director's report, apologize, I now lost my page here. On trainings, we had a light month in July, relatively speaking, with regards to webinar participants, with a total of 64 participating on the webinars. We had 139 participants in an online training. However, I should note tomorrow we have a general ethics webinar where I think we have approximately 250 or so participants signed up. With regards to training, we've started disseminating emails to specific departments, notifying them about the new the new mandatory ethics training requirement. We're sort of doing a slightly phased rollout to ensure that if there's any hiccups or problems, we're sort of able to work through them carefully. But we were going to probably start moving forward with full email blast to, essentially all departments, divisions the next week or two. We started trying to liaise to specific departments, divisions. For example, I've reached out to the superintendent, the Department of Education, about sort of how can we start trying to work with them, getting as many Department of Education employees through the state training program as possible. Probably we'll be hearing this training topic quite a bit over the next 6 months or so as we sort of try to figure out how do we get all state employees taking either our online or our live Zoom training as soon as possible. Moving on briefly to general statistics, we received in July 17 complaints, 17 requests for advice on gifts, invitations, and travel, and then 3 guidance and 6 judicial commission requests. We received 2 record requests with a total of 46 new incoming matters coming in July. Correspondingly, we closed out 12 complaints, 15 gifts, invitation travels, and had a total of 32 matters closed in July. I'm going to go ahead and be transferring over to Anita to talk about financial disclosure information. Before I do that, are there any questions?
Any questions from the commissioners? How about from the public? Anybody from the public have any questions of our executive director for his report? Okay. Let's move on.
Benita, do you mind going ahead and update on the financial disclosure?
Sure. Good morning, commissioners. Okay, primarily to update the commission on the candidate financial disclosures, since we just had the primary election and the deadline for filing of candidate financial disclosures. We had a total of 266 state candidates who were supposed to file, and about 30 who did not file on time, and their names were published on the website on July 28th as part of a media release. As of today, I think we have approximately 22 of those candidates who have filed, and so we'll be following up with those individuals. A few have requested waivers of the fines, but those matters will be addressed in the adjudicatory meeting. In terms of just a general overview of the financial disclosure updates for regular financial disclosures, we had about 997 employee filers and 804 board filers to date. So that's about 1,800 total filers for this year, which is about a 98% filing rate, which is really good. We are working with a few remaining board filers who have not yet filed, largely first-time filers and confidential board filers. So we're working with them and providing the assistance as needed, and working with their board administrators to ultimately get them to file their disclosures. So that's pretty much the general update as of today.
Thank you, Benita. Any questions for the commissioners? Any questions from the public that is with us? If not, Benita, thank you very much. Robert?
Thank you. And just as a quick update also to Benita's statistics, I think we've had 13 people pay their fines regarding the total 30 letters that we had sent out. And then as a part of the judicatory, as Benita mentioned, we do have a few requests for waivers. So I'm going to switch gears and start talking about the Commission on Improving Standards of Conduct. As you may recall, this is a commission that was created at the end of last legislative session. I am one of the appointed members, a total of 7 members on that commission. It issued an interim report at the close of the last legislative session, and it's been asked in December to file a final report making recommendations, and that's sort of a broad swath of a pretty broad jurisdiction, basically ways to improve standards of conduct. And it specifically calls out a number of different areas, including sunshine, ethics, and campaign finance. So this commission has been meeting approximately every 2 weeks and has been sort of targeting certain areas for discussion. The last meeting was a focus on sunshine law generally, where a bulk of the discussion tended to be on ways to improve the current Uniform Information Practice Act and sunshine laws, with a particular focus on some of the recent bills, which do require free access to documents for public interest organizations. We heard from both the Office of Information Practice as well as from Brian Black, who's been one of the chief advocates advocating for this proposal. There's also a mild discussion of applying the sunshine law to the legislature. Although there was not a formal vote, I think it seemed to be that the general consensus was trying to increase transparency without necessarily looking at full sunshine law adoption. But again, that's my perspective of the conversation. I should say there's no vote, no formal sort of position there taken. Today or this afternoon, the Standards Commission has another meeting, which I'll be facilitating, which is focused on legislative process. We've invited a number of legislators to come in and talk, including Senator Rhodes, Senator Lee, Representative Nakashima, Representative Bellotti, and Representative Ward. Following their comments and discussions with them, some of the topics will be talked about will be referral bills, what committees they go to, potentially looking at trying to propose term limits for chairs specifically, how long they can stay chairs of a particular committee, the hearing process for bills, which bills get heard, which ones don't, looking at disclosure of bill drafts and authors who submits a bill draft to the legislature, trying to add in requirements about posting testimony in a timely fashion, and then potentially looking at extending session time period or adding additional recesses to allow greater public review, public notice of hearings and participation. Those are some of the topics to be discussed. If you're interested in participating or listening in, the hearing is at 2 this afternoon. It's, I believe, in conference room 329. The Zoom website link is available on the hearings on the Capitol website. That's it.
Thank you very much, Robert. I want to thank Robert because actually I asked to put that on the sunshine agenda because it's good for us to know what's going on in the big picture. And we're very fortunate to have a representative from the commission onto the special commission. And if there's anything that would affect us, we should really know about. Is there anything, I got a question, is there anything that you felt discussed that could curtail our, I hate to use the word, rash of unethical conduct by our state government officials?
Elected officials, you mean?
Oh, elected, or both, really. Go ahead.
Yeah, there was I guess there's been a lot of discussion. So I mean, I can't necessarily quickly summarize the entire breadth of the discussions. Like I said, there's been meetings every 2 weeks. there was approximately a month ago, a meeting with prosecutors from all the counties, the state AG's office, and from the U.S. Attorney's office. And, you know, looking at the criminal aspect, there will be proposals coming in to try to make the state law maybe match some of the federal laws and sort of make sure there's adequate resources to ensure that the state can do investigations of criminal prosecution. In addition, we put on a panel specifically on ethics issues and made a number of recommendations. One of them, for example, we're submitting a draft, for example, creating a nepotism, a bright line nepotism requirement that Keith Campbell's really taking the lead on, and we'll be proposing the draft today for consideration. So yes, there's a number of things. I'd have to say most of the things that have been on the table to date outside of what I just discussed are, you know, incremental improvements, but I think we all have to recognize there's probably no silver bullet here. We're just going to be looking for incremental improvements and try to overall make the space better. Obviously, if anybody has suggestions or recommendations, I think, you know, again, the Standards Commission accepts testimony. I'm all ears. I mean, I think the idea is we're looking for good ideas that we can float to the top.
Wes,
Thank you, Robert. Yes, Ray?
you know, one of the things that is most appalling to me, having served in the legislature, is the very pro forma rulings by the chair, usually the Senate President, Speaker of the House, on conflicts of interest. It doesn't matter how blatant the conflict is, it's no conflict, and they go on their merry way. Was there any discussion about toughening up these conflict of interests provisions or rulings so that they mean something and there can be proper discussion and investigation?
Yes,
Rob?
yeah. We were just actually, I was just looking at the language with Susan yesterday. We are drafting proposed language looking at the House and Senate rules, which would make the issue of conflict of interest, the default would be recusal not just from votes, but from discussions, meetings, etc. If there is a request, again, normally it's a, do I have a conflict is the question. If there's a request to ascertain whether there is a conflict of interest, the idea is it would require a full vote, either by the committee or if it's on the floor, by the floor. So I think the intent is to make that a more difficult process that would require full discussion at that time. So that again, that's what we're drafting right now. You know, and then the Standards Commission would, you know, would be interested in your input. The Standards Commission would have to sort of endorse that language, and then obviously the legislature would have to actually adopt it.
There was a bill that was it was signed into law by the governor that really toughened up the conflicts of interest provision. It came from our state ethics commission, and when the leaders of both houses realized what they had done, they didn't realize the import of what we were striving for. They persuaded us to back up a little bit and rethink the issue. Is there any way that we could go back to what we had passed and see if that might now be in play? I know you're not familiar because that was before your time, Robert, but I'm thinking there must be some record, Susan might know, of what our previous commissioner, our executive director had been able to accomplish with the legislature. Do you know what I'm referring to, Susan?
I do not off the top of my head, but we can certainly research that and report back.
All right, thank you.
I welcome the question. I've had some conversations with Dan Gluck about that matter. I think it's certainly something we can look at. I think ultimately it's, as you well know, politics is an art of pragmatic realism at times. So I think it's also sort of a question of what is the legislature going to do? So I think that's certainly a statutory change where we have more jurisdiction is in the cards.
Rob, I'll just say it's a different animal because it was approved by the legislature. It was signed into law by the governor. This is a little bit different. This had the force of law for a while until we were forced to back up on it. I don't know what the mechanism was to force us to back up, but it's a little bit different than the usual problem we have trying to get ethics to the legislature. And we'll let Susan do the research and see where we go.
Okay, so executive director will follow up along with our deputy executive director. Any more questions? Commissioner Hong, any questions? No? How about staff? Any questions of our exec director? How about the public? Any members of the public have any questions? Okay, if not, let's move on to item number 4, Sunshine Law Review.
Thank you, Chair. Just particularly because we have one new commissioner, and I think it's just always a good opportunity to review. We have posted or on the agenda the link to the Sunshine Law Guide put out by the Office of Information Practice. They also have a short video. I highly encourage taking a look at the guide. It is not very short, but it is relatively concise and pretty direct and put in sort of a frequently asked question format. I did want to highlight a couple of key points. And again, I'm confident that the experienced commissioners know this, but it's just worth repeating that discussion of board business cannot be done outside of meetings, except with a few narrow exceptions. Commissioners can communicate about procedural matters, such as scheduling meetings, sort of in general, procedural aspects of sort of running the day-to-day business of the Ethics Commission, and communications with non-board members are allowed. So for example, if you have questions that you want to talk to the staff, you want to talk to members of the public, as long as it's not a confidential issue, you are allowed to do that. It's primary discussions with other board members. 2 board members can discuss board business so long as there's no commitment to vote and so long as it's not a serial communication. So one board member cannot talk to somebody about something and then call the next board member and then call the next board member as an attempt to evade the Sunshine Law. So they don't mind this brief recap. If there's any questions, happy to try to answer, or bring somebody from the Office of Information Practice to address it at the next meeting if I can't answer it.
Thank you, Robert.
Just a clarification.
Yes.
Just a
Commissioner
clarification. 2 board members can discuss something, even if it's germane to what's going to happen or happened at one of our meetings, but no more than 2. Am I correct in understanding that?
Correct, as long as there's no commitment to vote, so you can't.
All right. And no serial discussion. I understand that. But for example, I talked to Wes and I said, Wes calls me and says, would you be willing to be vice chair? It's so long as it's the 2 of us. And I say yes. Is that a violation? Or should I have said, I'm sorry, I can't commit myself? How do I handle that?
So you're not committing to vote, you're saying indicating an interest in position. And I
Correct.
do think that would be a permissible conversation.
Because I didn't want to be illegally the vice chair.
I think in addition, I think the intent is to try to minimize those kind of conversations too, right? So, I mean, I would try to avoid extensive discussions about board business regardless, even if it is one board member to another.
Well,
because
we
again,
need a little leeway though, Rob. I mean, you can't be strict about it. I mean, the law says you can have 2. That's what the law says.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with that? As long as it's not serial and there's a commitment to vote. Why are we making it harder on ourselves to do business?
I think the law also says that those exceptions are supposed to be narrow. So again, if it's something that needs to occur, again, for the exact purpose you just gave, I think is fine. But I think I'd also sort of try to refrain from really, really long conversations about stuff that's likely to be before the board. And recognize that those conversations are supposed to be public to the extent possible.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Robert. And Commissioner Gralty, I'm glad you agreed to apply for the position of
It was a
vice
mango
chair
bread. It was the promise of the mango bread. Wes.
with your extensive experience and wealth of knowledge. Okay,
I
we'll
was
leave it
worn
at
out. We needed new blood. I was worn out.
that. Commissioner Hong, any questions?
Questions?
None? All right. Staff, any questions? How about for any member of the public have any questions of our exec director in regards to the Sunshine Law? Okay, if not, let's move on. Item number 5, Akana via Hawaii State Ethics.
No update.
Nothing? Any questions on this? There is no report. Okay, Let's see what else we have.
We can do a call for adjournment.
Yeah. Jeez, I'm disappointed. Short agenda.
Move to adjourn?
Yes, is there a motion? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second? Move to
Second.
second that we adjourn. The time is now 9:26. Those in favor of adjourning, just raise your right hand. I see both commissioners, Geralti and Hong, and the chair votes in affirmative. Thank you very much, everybody. Motion, I'm sorry.